When you think of California, you probably picture sun-drenched beaches, sprawling cities, and iconic highways hugging a coastline packed with multi-million-dollar homes. It's one of the most populated states in the nation, home to over 39 million people. But what if I told you that hidden within this bustling state, there's a secret coast? A wild, beautiful, and almost entirely empty stretch of shoreline so extreme that modern America was forced to just go around it. This is California's Lost Coast, an incredible 80-plus mile expanse of raw, undeveloped coastline where almost nobody lives. And this wasn't an accident. This landscape wasn't just overlooked. It was a place that actively fought back. It defeated engineers, defied developers, and in doing so, preserved a version of California that few people even know exists. This is the story of how the land itself simply said no. To understand why the Lost Coast is so empty, you first have to understand what it is. Tucked away in the remote corners of Humboldt and Mendocino counties, this is where the North American continent gets aggressive. This isn't the gentle, rolling landscape of Southern California. This is the home of the King Range. Unlike most mountain ranges that sit inland, the King Range rises dramatically from the coastline, with peaks soaring to over 4,000 feet just a few miles from the crashing surf. Think about that for a second. Mountains erupting straight out of the water with almost no coastal plain to build on. There is only mountain and ocean locked in a permanent, powerful collision. But the extremity of the landscape is powered by something even more formidable, hidden just offshore. This is the location of the Mendocino Triple Junction, one of the most geologically active and complex spots in North America. It's a chaotic intersection where three massive tectonic plates, the Pacific Plate, the North American Plate, and the Gorda Plate, are all grinding against each other. This furious geologic activity makes the entire region incredibly unstable. The result is that the King Range is one of the most rapidly uplifting coastal mountain ranges on the continent, with the ground literally being pushed upwards at a startling rate. This constant movement shatters the rock, creating a crumbly, unstable mess that is prone to constant landslides. The rock itself is a type of dark sandstone called greywacke, which is a major reason the area has its famous black sand beaches. The stone disintegrates and is left behind by the powerful surf. So, imagine you're an engineer in the early 20th century, tasked with building a road here. You're not just dealing with steep cliffs. You're trying to build on the side of a mountain that is actively rising, shaking, and crumbling into the sea. Any road you carve is at constant risk of being wiped out. Nature had drawn a line, and the cost of crossing it was simply too high. In the early 20th century, California was gripped by a grand vision, a continuous ribbon of highway that would hug its magnificent coastline, a road that would one day become the iconic State Route 1. Planners and engineers successfully laid pavement along hundreds of miles, conquering the cliffs of Big Sur with dynamite and incredible determination. They believed no terrain was a match for modern American ingenuity. And then they came to the King Range. The rugged stretch of coast between Rockport and Ferndale was a massive obstacle. As surveyors studied the region, they realized this was a fundamentally different problem than Big Sur. The combination of extreme steepness, relentless winter storms, and profoundly unstable geology meant that building a road here wasn't just expensive. It was practically impossible. A road built one year could be gone the next, swept away by one of the hundreds of landslides that plagued the region. So, a decision was made. Instead of continuing up the coast, the Great Coastal Highway abruptly turns inland, merging with Highway 101 miles from the ocean. It doesn't reappear near the coast again until north of Ferndale, leaving a massive gap. This wasn't a single moment of surrender, but a slow retreat in the face of insurmountable odds. The dream of a fully coastal highway died right here. And in its death, the Lost Coast was born. The name started catching on around the 1930s and into the mid-20th century, a time when the area was experiencing significant depopulation. Early industries like logging and tanning had struggled, Small mill towns like Usul were devastated by a combination of fires, economic hardship, and the sheer difficulty of operating in such a remote place. Even an early oil rush near the town of Petrolia fizzled out, failing to create a lasting boom. When the Great Depression hit, the remaining population thinned, leaving behind a place that felt increasingly disconnected from the rest of California, a coast that was truly lost. Because the highway gave up, the Lost Coast remains a world apart. To visit, you can't just cruise up the coast. You have to commit. The journey requires navigating long, winding, and often poorly maintained county roads that snake their way over the mountains and down to the sea. This journey leads to a handful of tiny, isolated communities that are the heart of the Lost Coast: Petrolia, Honeydew, and Whitethorn. With only a few hundred residents scattered across the entire region, life here operates on a different rhythm. Don't expect convenience. Mail service can be unreliable, power outages are a fact of life, and a trip to a major grocery store can be an all-day affair. Cell service is limited at best. This is a place for the self-sufficient, for people who trade convenience for profound isolation and a deep connection to the natural world. The largest community is Shelter Cove, which is an interesting anomaly. It began as a speculative resort development in the 1960s, complete with a small subdivision and its own airstrip. But the grand vision of a bustling coastal resort never fully materialized. Today, while it has the most services on the Lost Coast, it remains incredibly remote, a small pocket of civilization pressed against an overwhelming wilderness and adjacent to vast protected lands. For the people who choose to live here, the isolation isn't a bug, it's the main feature. The lack of a major highway has preserved a sense of community that has vanished from almost everywhere else in California. It's a life defined not by what was built, but by what was never built. The very forces that made the Lost Coast inhospitable to developers made it an absolute paradise for wildlife. The failure to build a road was, in effect, its salvation. Recognizing the unique character of this land, the federal government stepped in. In 1970, a huge swath of the region, around 68,000 acres, was designated as the King Range National Conservation Area. This act formally protected the wilderness, ensuring the mountains and coastline would remain largely free from major development. And what a treasure it preserved. This is a place where herds of Roosevelt elk wander along black sand beaches, where sea lions and harbor seals claim the offshore rocks, their barks echoing in the fog. The creeks and rivers that cut through the mountains still support runs of salmon and steelhead trout, and the dense forests are critical habitat for species like the northern spotted owl. It's a functioning ecosystem, a rare glimpse of what the California coast looked like centuries ago. For humans, the only way to truly immerse yourself in this world is to do it the hard way, on foot. The legendary Lost Coast Trail is the most famous way to experience the area, but it's no simple walk on the beach. The main section is a grueling 25-mile trek almost entirely on sand and slick boulders. There are no bridges over the creeks, and several sections of the coastline are completely impassable during high tide. Hikers have to carry tide charts and time their movements with the ocean's rhythm. You are on nature's clock, not your own. It is a profound and at times humbling experience that underscores the raw power of this place. So why do so few Americans live on the Lost Coast? The answer is written in the landscape itself. The mountains were too steep, the ground too unstable, and the ocean too powerful. Engineers found it too difficult to pave, industries found it too challenging to tame, and the few who settled learned to live by its demanding rules. In the end, what seemed like a failure, the failure to build a road, to develop a coastline, to conquer a wilderness, was its greatest success. The Lost Coast remains as a powerful testament to the limits of human ambition and the enduring power of nature. It's a piece of California that was saved by default, a coastline preserved not by careful planning, but by being just a little too wild to break.